Chapter 1, Lilies. The sun beats down on Galilee, scorching Capernaum with its heat, and causing the people all about, working in ships and laboring outdoors, to grow fatigued and irritable. There is no relief today, and there will not be until after sunset, when we have ceased our work for an evening meal. For now it is past midday, and so we must suffer mercilessly for the long afternoon. I wipe a bead of sweat from my brow. I can feel it trickle annoyingly down the bridge of my nose, and I jerkily brush it away. Our home of mud and bricks is thick and close. I continue with the spindle, weaving on the wooden frame of the loom. We weave simple, undecorated garments, we women of Galilee. Garments of linen, but the linen is strong and firm and durable. My mother says that the linen represents somehow our lives. Simple, plain maybe, but enduring. Only the rich wear beautiful colors of red and purple, adorned, hand-stitched with embroidery. Although I have never seen them, in truth I have never seen anything. I have been blind since the day my mother birthed me. My sister Tabitha tells me that the color of the garment I weave is blue, like the Sea of Galilee, she adds. Tabitha is 7, my only sister besides my 4 brothers. Though she is younger, 8 years younger to be precise, she sometimes acts the older of the sisters. She knows more simply because she can see, and I cannot. I raise my face from my weaving, yearning for companionship. Solitude makes me feel bitter and alone and frightened. Even if all I see is darkness, to know that someone is nearby softens the hurt somehow. I turn my head from side to side. Tabitha, I call, leaning forward, moving my hand to feel for the hem of her garment. Where could she be? How could she have slipped out without my hearing? I may be blind, but I have the ears of a fox. Where is that girl? I wonder irritably. Tabitha, I call again. No answer. No sound at all in the house. Tabitha, I repeat, frightened. I begin to crawl on my hands and knees, feeling. Frustrated, I sit back and bump into something solid. I move my hand over the form. It is a little girl, her bare legs drawn in, her veil loose, hair damp from the heat. Tabitha. I listen closely and catch the sound of a faint snore. I laugh then, laugh at my fear. I do not wake her, but let her sleep on. I smile at my secret, knowing my mother would think her lazy for sleeping at midday without excuse. I scoot back to my place beside the loom and continue with my weaving. I hum an old Hebrew melody. I enjoy being useful, using my hands to make something. This one we will sell at the market, my mother tells me. I occupy my mind with wondering, what will the woman who buys the shawl be like? Will she be tall and beautiful? Shall she be young or old? A young bride or a widow? I know she will be of lower birth to be buying a shawl of blue linen. I hear footsteps from a distance. How close I cannot tell. I recognize them to be my Aunt Mary's. She is the widow of my father's brother, Aaron, who died a few years ago. She has a son, Abijah, who is between the ages of my older brothers. They have lived with us since my uncle's death. The footsteps come nearer, the tread light and leisurely, not like my mother's. Hers is quick and lively, always busy. Shena, she says in a gentle tone. I imagine her passing through the doorway, touching the mezuzah. Aunt Mary, I reply, a smile lifting the corners of my mouth. Tabitha is sleeping at this hour of the day? My aunt asks. I can feel her smile. Yes, I didn't want to wake her. The heat must have made her tired, I respond. Indeed, my aunt says. We both know that normally Tabitha doesn't sleep until long past dark. She is nearly as energetic as my mother. Well, we're here alone for a bit yet. Your grandfather was asleep when I left for the well. Your mother should be home soon, my aunt informs me. I go back to my weaving. That is a beautiful blue shawl. I'm sure some woman will like it very much, my aunt comments. I hope so, I smile. It feels good and strong, like all our linen. Yes. I'm going to bring the grain out here to grind, says my aunt. She leaves the room, her footsteps fading away, and then returns a moment later. I hear her seat herself. It's very hot today, I intone, breaking the comfortable silence. It is. I'm twisting my hair up now to cool myself, my aunt informs me. I smile. She always describes things to me out of consideration. Aunt Mary, what does your hair look like? I ask interestedly. My aunt laughs, like all the other Galilean women's, dark and thick. Mine's a little coarse, so I have to cut it sometimes to make it manageable. It isn't nearly as long or as smooth as yours. After a moment's pause, my aunt says, the grain will make good bread. Hopefully we'll have more with the harvest. I nod, listen as she works the pestle against the grain. I weave, pulling the thread in and out. A new sound comes as Tabitha stirs, yawns, and pushes herself up. Tabitha, are you awake? I ask. She merely groans in response. My aunt laughs. It's good that you're awake. If your mother got home and found you asleep, she would have scolded you. Tabitha complains. Emma always scolds me. She never scolds Shena. I shake my head. She used to scold me when I was little, too. Aunt Mary says, "Your Emma is a good woman." Tabitha sighs sufferingly. I hear her resume her own weaving. I tell my sister, "You made me frightened when I called for you and you didn't answer. Then I found you sleeping." Tabitha asks my aunt, "Who did you see at the well?" "Ah, friends. Your cousin Zilpha with her son Salmon on her hip. Your Aunt Sarah. Your great-aunt Judith. Little Tamar. She sends her greetings. There were not many. Most had already drawn their water in the morning," my mother tells us. We sit together, talking sparingly, each occupied with our thoughts. We pass an hour in this way. My mother returns after a while from visiting with one of the pregnant women in our village. She always assists in the births in Capernaum, at least of the more common folk. "Tabitha, Shena, Mary," she says as she enters. She puts a sack down that she's been carrying and helps herself to one of the water skins that Aunt Mary has filled for convenience and use. "And how is my little girl?" Mother asks, pulling Tabitha close. I imagine my sister snuggling into the folds of my mother's shapeless dress. "Tired," my sister sighs. "Tired," I laugh inwardly. How could she be tired? She was the one that was able to steal a few minutes' sleep. As for myself, I can never sleep during the day, though I do not know why. Everything is always darkness to me.